Hi, I'm Brian Zelmer, Director of KU Presents at Kutztown University. During the 2018-2019 season, KU Presents is celebrating its 30th anniversary of bringing professional touring artists to the community. In this mini-series, we'll take a journey in time to explore the many behind-the-scenes stories of our first 30 years. In this episode, we'll learn about how the series evolved, including the addition of staff and a change in leadership. Join me, won't you, as we celebrate 30 years of KU Presents.
Well, the first show, fortunately, was a chamber music concert, so that doesn't require a lot of tech. But for the other shows, we had the acting company and we had the Murray Lewis Dance Company that require a lot of tech. And we didn't have a tech director at the time. We relied on student help for our tech services. And some of the tech riders for some of the theater performances and dance performances were very involved. It got to the point where we realized that we couldn't rely on students to do this. We needed to have a professional. And I believe it was maybe our second or third year that we hired a professional.
The first artist I worked with was out of state college, and that led to other groups from that point on. But in terms of longevity, artists that I had a history of perhaps 2 years or more, Kiss would be one, Melissa Manchester, and Engelbert Humperdinck. I was on tour. I was over on a tour of Japan, and had just come back. My wife and I were living in Maryland, and she was pregnant with our daughter Laura. So I came back and didn't really have anything lined up at that point. My sister-in-law sent us a clipping from the Allentown Morning Call that said Kutztown University looking for technical support, and kind of gave a loose job description of what it is they were after. And since her and my family are originally from the area, I decided, well, why not? Let's see what takes place. So I got an interview and was offered the job like 3 months later. So I've been here since '91, about 26, 27 years. When I came here, there really wasn't much in the way of a facility. I mean, you have the basic building, but it was lacking so much. I mean, whatever equipment existed, basically the theater department owned as far as lighting and sound. So if you wanted to do a show, you more or less had to ask their permission to use it. There wasn't a loading dock, so we had to come in the front of the building, roll down the aisleway to the front, and I had a big cargo ramp that we would use to push all the gear up onto the stage because there was no other way to access it. So that, coupled with lack of power and other things that you take for granted in a normal theater situation, wasn't here. So yeah, it was a push the first few years until we built up inventory and I figured out how to make all this stuff work.
Not only was it that we needed computerized ticketing, but we also needed a way to have a paper trail for our accounting. We needed to be able to keep better account of everything, of all of our attendance figures, also of donors and that kind of thing, and all that we could do in a computerized system. So we were the first office on campus to have a computerized ticketing system.
Having worked with manual tickets for many, many years, where you have seating charts and folders and you put X's when you sell the ticket and you erase the X if they return it, having a computerized system was absolutely amazing. Right before I started working at KU Presents, I had been working temp jobs because after I had been in grad school studying arts administration, I lived in Connecticut for several months job hunting and was not very successful. I moved back here to the area and worked several temp jobs, including at the Kutztown University bookstore opening weekend. And as I told people what I wanted to do with my life, they said, oh, there's a position open here on campus. They're looking for somebody with experience in arts administration that can also work on a ticketing system and design advertising. And I found that I actually could do all of those things. So I applied on a Thursday. They interviewed me like on a Friday, and I started on Monday. And I've been here now 18 years. One of the things during my interview process that I thought was very interesting, Ellen told me flat out that I got the job because I answered one question correctly. She asked me if I was a filer or a piler, and I told her I was a filer. She said, great, because I'm a piler. So one of the first things I did was a lot of filing, because things had been piling up around the office.
I wasn't full-time. I was doing the outreach and the children's series and the regular series that I thought it's time for someone to help me with this outreach. And I went to my boss, Bill Sutton.
Since the inception of the Performing Artists Series, an integral part of the process has been holding faculty and student workshops and training sessions either before or after their production. And this was a way to involve the student community and the faculty in the different performances. And because it was a cross-section of types of performances, it had touched the lives of more faculty and more students that way. So it was a really unique opportunity, a learning experience for all people that wasn't possible prior to the start of the series.
So at that time we were doing very well financially, and I felt I could afford to hire a part-time person.
I was hired in 2003 by Ellen. I came in for an interview for an events coordinator, and through the interview I learned that it was even more than that. It was the educational outreach coordinator. I was the second person to be in that position. The coordinator was the one who worked with the schools, the public schools, private schools, and even home schools to bring those students into KU to see matinee performances of the same performers that were on stage that very night. We've taken dancers to Lowers Park Elementary School. I remember 2 times specifically, we brought flamenco dancers there. We also brought a group called Fly Dance, who was doing hip hop dance, and they just loved it. It was just an amazing performance. Also, Andes Manta, who was a pan flute group from the Andes. They brought bamboo pipe kits that the kids made pan flutes out of. And I remember the funniest thing, there's middle school kids, and they're putting them together, they're showing them how to put them together to get the right notes, and they're still working with some of the other kids, but there's this one group of kids over here that started playing Smoke on the Water. They knew how to play it on the pan flute. It was really pretty cool. It was our 20th anniversary, and Ellen announced that she was retiring. And that was it's a kind of a surprise to all of us. She had just, she founded the series and brought it along for 20 years, and we were kind of not sure what was going to happen after Ellen.
I decided to retire at a relatively early age, before I was retirement age, because there were a lot of other things I wanted to do.
The biggest change was when Ellen announced her retirement, because the seasons had been going very well. From an artistic perspective, we had amazing shows. Ellen booked some incredible performances. People really appreciated what we did. And when Ellen announced her retirement, it was very much a shock to all of us, and we kind of wondered, well, what's going to happen next?
With respect to wanting to set the goals that I saw as opportunities and also put my own flavor onto the curatorial style that I had, I wanted to respect the work that Ellen had done prior to here, because she had built up subscribers and donors and people who knew of the Performing Arts Series as well as Schaeffer Auditorium. So it was a bit of a bridge and a balance, and winning over the trust of people to not only see what my vision was, but see how it could be adapted, and that it really wasn't going to destroy the past but build on it.
It was very different when Andy came. He had a very different energy. Coming from Rochester, he did a lot of programming that was very different from what we had been doing.
What I sensed was a really great opportunity for the Performing Arts Series to even be more integrated into campus life, how the students and how the faculty use the Performing Arts Series, as well as how the town perceived Schaeffer Auditorium as a performing arts venue.
When Andy came on as director, the outreach was going on, and he was pleased with how we were bringing schools here and getting artists out to the schools. But the part he felt was missing was the KU students, getting the university students to the performances, as well as involving them in master classes, which had been going on. And one of the ways he just wanted to reach out to the students was by bringing performances to them. I remember the Academic Forum was a new building at the time, and we had a quartet playing while classes were changing and while people were having lunch, and just doing some guerrilla marketing, as he would call it, and getting out on campus, usually at that Thursday 11 o'clock hour when everybody's free and walking around campus.
We started guerrilla marketing initiatives as a way of bringing attention to what was happening at the university. We started putting a lot of additional signage around the campus, including the big banners that hang on the front of the hall, because again, you could walk through the campus and you may or may not know that there's an auditorium. You may not know that there's a performing arts series that's going on, and we really wanted to highlight the really amazing things that were happening in the hall. So we would pick some crazy stunts that we would do throughout the course of the season. One year we were presenting the Paragon Ragtime Orchestra's performance of Zorro, and I got the theater department to stage a Zorro-esque sword fight that happened. It started at Schaeffer Auditorium, and they fought all the way down the sidewalk and then completely disappeared. And people were taking YouTube clips and things on their phone and all that fun stuff. And again, that was sort of to draw attention to the fact that there is a series at the Art Center.
When Schaeffer Auditorium was taken offline for renovations, everybody was really excited about it because we really needed to have a new, freshened space.
Probably the biggest challenge with the renovation is what are we going to shut down for a season? Are we going to keep moving forward? And we decided that our patrons deserved us to continue doing shows. What we offered our patrons was, if they didn't want to renew their subscription for the following year in a new space, once we figured out what it was, we would hold their seats for them to come back into Schaeffer Auditorium.
So we kind of came up with the idea, well, where else could we present? And I looked at various venues around the town of Kutztown. I mean, the fairgrounds, even buildings like the car dealership that's no longer being used. I looked at them from the standpoint, could we do shows in there? Well, what wound up working out was that we decided we would go to the Student Union building because it was on campus.
So the invention of Ursa Miner's Cafe came because we knew that the hall was going to be shut down for 18 months. I wanted to spend an entire year getting the name of an alternative series out there so that our patrons could become familiar with another venue. So as a branding exercise, we started to think about the things that people might identify with the performing arts series. So seeing stars on stage, the fact that we're the Golden Bears, and the fact that it was a smaller series in a smaller venue. So all of those things kind of put together, and again, we came up with Ursa Miner's Cafe, which is, the small bear in the sky.
In the end, we were able to basically set up and tear down in a day each of our shows, because the space we went into, the students use heavily during the school year, and we could only be in one day for our show, and that was all we had.
We came in, we added auxiliary lighting, drapery, sound. We brought in tables, and we really did create kind of an intimate cafe environment.
We serve food too, so we had to come up with menus and wait staff, which was really our ushers came in and were serving food to the people. But it was a great space. It was really intimate. We had some different performers that we wouldn't have brought in to the big stage in Schaeffer, but it was really a great space, and a lot of our performers, a lot of performers really liked it, but also our subscribers. There were some of them who still ask, are you going to bring back Ursa Minor? That was a lot of fun.
I loved when this auditorium was being redone because we could be over in the Ursa Minor Cafe. I loved that, basically because we had a front table and we could see the sweat coming off the people right in that at the microphone, and went to some of the receptions before, so we got to meet the artists before they performed. But you could eat, which was fun. It was up close and personal. I felt like I was in a little cafe someplace outside of Kutztown. I enjoyed it over there. My favorite performance was with Janice Ian, who was probably performed within 6 feet of me, and then I got to meet her before the show. It was delightful.
I think for me, one of the performances that really worked well in that space was the DePue Brothers Band. Now this is timpanist Don Liuzzi, who's the principal timpanist of the Philadelphia Orchestra, playing drum set and vibraphone and just experiencing with his relatives and musician friends a different way of communicating music to the public.
Our table was in the front row, And often when the artists would speak to the audience, I felt as though they were speaking directly to us. And there were many occasions where after the performance I would encounter the artists and have conversation with them. So that was a delightful experience, really.
Shamika Copeland was really good because she came down into the audience and she walked around among us. She knew how to work a crowd. That was good.
I think our audience really enjoyed the atmosphere. We were serving coffee and snacks and food, which was not something that they were used to. Some of our audience members weren't as much of a fan. They really liked the more formal auditorium setting for performances, but a lot of patrons enjoyed the more jazz club feel that we were able to present down there.
And some of the shows we did in there were stellar. Janice Ian comes to mind. I mean, she just, it was the perfect environment for her.
Many of the patrons understood what we were doing, and I think that a lot of them responded very positively. We promised a number of our subscribers who may have decided that they wanted to take a year off that we would guarantee their seats coming back. And so we tried to put some very patron-friendly things in place for the time that we knew that we were going to go down. I think we actually had a number of new patrons come and experience the performing arts at Kutztown, again, because it was something different, something that was a little bit more social, something that was actually at a lower price point as well. There was a lot of positives. There were probably some, negatives that happened throughout of it, but I think generally speaking, we were able to, again, serve the priority function, which was to make sure that there was an art series that stayed at Kutztown University, so by the time Schaeffer Auditorium came back online again, that we could carry those patrons back into the major hall.
Andy announced he was leaving just about a month before we were planning to exit the building and go to our temporary spaces. So it was a little bit overwhelming for me to suddenly know Andy was leaving while we were going through all of these transitions. The building was still being designed. We were going to a temporary space. We were hosting shows in a temporary space, and we were going to have to keep moving forward without a director. So that was a bit of a challenge, and it took about a year and a half until they hired Robin. So in the meantime, Elaine and Greg and I, with the help of John Green, actually had to book a full season in Ursa Minor's Cafe, which was a space that we were just creating and had to kind of figure out what was going to work there.
When Andy left, we were in the middle of the first Ursa Minor season. So the spring season was booked, but then after that, there was a delay before anybody else was hired. It took a while to go through the process. So Amy was interim director. Greg and I took over the booking. The three of us kind of combined efforts and came up with some artists that we were familiar with, some that we weren't, and found that they would be right for the space. We had some really great performers. Maura O'Connell, Matt Schofield, a blues player, Project Trio, which was one of my favorites. I thought they were just really a fun group. And Jason Bishop for the children's series. We kept the children's series going as well as the performing artist series. So it was a trying time, but we pulled through that, and I think all three of us are really proud of pulling that season together.
So it was a team effort. It was myself, Elaine Bonfido, and Amy Botwright. At the time, we really didn't have much in the way of direction. The director at that time, John, said, I trust you guys, go ahead out. And that's what we did. We each took our individual areas of interest as far as music. And mine was, obviously popular music, so I did that. Amy's a Broadway aficionado, so she went and looked at the Broadway aspect. Elaine was very good about folk and kind of world music and things. And we went ahead and we booked it, and we had a very good season. It was a great run, and people really liked it. 200 seats, it was intimate, up close and personal, and I think it was a proud accomplishment.
We've now met the first two directors to lead KU Presents, and we've met the staff. We've progressed through the temporary closing of Schaeffer Auditorium and learned about the creation of Ursa Minor's Cafe, which kept the program going. Tune in next time when the series returns to Schaeffer Auditorium. Thanks for joining us. I'm Brian Zelmer, and we've been celebrating 30 years of KU Presents. Welcome to the 30th anniversary season of KU Presents. Get ready to rock with the music of Billy Joel on October 25th with Mike Del Judas and Big Shot.
You don't have to talk all night. I'm a man who can't say no. You don't have to twist my arm. Point me where you want to go.
This band consists of longtime, current members of Billy Joel's band and can be seen performing with him in arenas and stadiums around the world, including the monthly concerts at Madison Square Garden.
Easy money, I could get lucky. Oh, things could go right.
On November 9th, 4 principal musicians from the New York Philharmonic will perform works from classical string quartet repertoire under the name New York Philharmonic String Quartet.
Swinging little party with all of our friends. We're hoping you dig the invitation, make a plan to attend. We're gonna be singing jingle bells until the holidays end. A swinging little Christmas time. We're gonna be wrapping up your present.
Ring in the holidays with a heartfelt and fun performance on December 5th with Jane Lynch, A Swingin' Little Christmas. This show features both poignant and hilarious takes on classic holiday tunes, as well as nostalgia-inspired originals. Jane Lynch is best known for her role of Sue Sylvester on Glee, and she's joined by Kate Flannery, known for her 9 seasons as Meredith on The Office, and Glee's vocal arranger, Tim Davis.
The joint will be rocking with the rhythm of some holiday tunes, but baby, it wouldn't be a party if it didn't have you. A swing a little Christmas time.
Just in time for Valentine's Day is A.R. Gurney's famous Broadway play, Love Letters, on February 13th. This production is reinvigorated as 2 iconic television stars, I Dream of Jeannie's Barbara Eden and Barney Miller's Hal Linden, pull the heartstrings of spellbound audiences across America.
You know, do you know a play called Love Letters?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
I
with Larry.
love doing that.
You did it with Larry, didn't you?
I did it with Larry. I am doing it now with Hal Linden, and you asked me what I was doing. I'm going to do it next year with Hal.
Uh-huh.
But that absolutely, for pure joy for me as an actress, is that part. I love it. What better to take from a little child to an old lady? I mean, what an arc. I love it, love it, love it.
Join us March 21st when guitar virtuoso Benesse features Fuego, the Latin river dance. Fuego features the passion and grace of flamenco dancing combined with fiery Spanish guitar. A beautifully charming and romantic Spanish village is the backdrop for Benesse and his stage full of musicians and dancers. Rounding our season out on April 16th is one of the most dynamic live performers of our time, Arturo Sandoval. The protege of the legendary jazz master Dizzy Gillespie, Arturo Sandoval is known for his virtuosic technical ability on the trumpet, but he also plays the piano and sings. Don't miss one of the most brilliant, multifaceted, and renowned musicians of our time, Arturo Sandoval. Tickets are now available by calling 610-683-4092 or by visiting kutztownpresents.org. Thank you to Berks Community Television and all of the KU Presents season sponsors. See you at Schaeffer.